This is the Nissan Nation Podcast.
And Jim Bob.
The views and opinions of the Nissan Nation Podcast are simply that. They are views and opinions of its guests or hosts. They do not reflect Nissan corporate or otherwise. Now, a DRB and KGB media presentation, the Nissan Nation Podcast. Hit it, Kelly.
Recorded live, coast to coast, it's the Nissan Nation Podcast. From camping, racing, and all points in between. The NNP is your Nissan Nation Podcast. Now start your engines and welcome in your hosts, David, Danny, and Holden.
What is going on, Nissan Nation? From all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee to, we got double coast over there. We got the Northern Pacific Coast and LA West Coast. This is your Nissan Nation Podcast, and I'm your host, David Boyd. Daniel, what is going on, amigo?
Not much, brother. Yeah, I'm bringing in the West Coast strong today. We got some special guests that's going to hang out with us and chat Nissan stuff, chat whatever he wants, to tell you the truth, because he's a cool cat. And so not too much going on over here. We're actually experiencing a little weather. We're got to do some snow wheeling, all kinds of fun stuff going on these days.
Wait, they have snow? They got snow that way? What's going on, man?
Yeah, Southern California got some weird stuff happen.
So wait a minute.
We got that white stuff flew down from the skies, and everybody freaked out. Everybody crashed, and then once that cleared, I drove out to the mountains.
So Donald Trump was there, and hell froze over, right?
Well, Donald Trump came over and he said, "We're gonna have a winter. It's gonna be huge." And then all of a sudden, there's snowboarding, and it was amazing. It was amazing. He brought the snow.
Well, tonight, so like Danny was saying a minute ago, we have I guess podcast royalty, we'll call it. We have Arron with the Offroad podcast with us tonight. Arron, what is going on up there in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, we got some snow up here also. I haven't had a chance to go play in it yet. But yeah, we definitely got the mountains coated as well. Some of my podcast co-hosts have been out a few times in it, doing some recoveries and camping even. So,
well, and I know we met a guy from that area. Hey, Danny, what was the guy's name? The knife guy that we met from that area?
Oh gosh, I'm feeling terrible right now. It's CK Knife and Tool.
Yes, and he's in your area, and he was talking about all the snow and stuff they had.
Yeah, I'm totally spacing on his name. I'm sorry, bro. I mean, I just see his name on Instagram all the time, and we're chatting on Instagram and YouTube all the time now. But now all I think of when I think of him is CK Knife and Tool. So at least I'll give him like a million props on YouTube and Instagram. CK Knife and Tool.
That's right.
So go check him out. He makes some cool knives though. He makes knives. He's got a big Titan, and he goes like the Northwest Overland Rally and stuff like that. So really nice guy.
Well, that is true. But yeah, man. So you bunch of snow. You said you haven't got to get out in that. You still have your Nissan Frontier, right?
I do. Yes. Yeah, and it's serving me really well.
I bet. Well, you also got another killer off-road vehicle, right?
Yeah, I've got a 1998 Stewart and Stevenson LMTV. It's an Army cargo truck essentially. It's what replaced the deuce and a halves and stuff that the military used.
Right. So it's basically your daily driver or something gets for a fuel economy, right?
I wish I could daily it because I just get looks all the time when I'm in it. I do drive it probably 4 or 5 times a month. I'll bring it to work and pick up a load of lumber to bring home for projects. I work in the wood industry. When my wife's out of town, my wife really doesn't like it at all. But when she's out of town, I'll take the kids to church in it, and the kids absolutely love it. And actually, this coming Saturday is what's that Christmas story where there's the train and they go
Polar Express.
Polar Express, thank you. There's the Polar Express at the fire station, so I'm going to take the kids in the Army truck to the fire station in the local town.
Nice. So, to paint a picture of it, what is it? What's the setup on it? I mean, is it a flatbed? Is it what's the configuration that you got? Yeah. And is it just it's Army surplus or military surplus that you got it from?
Yeah, it is military surplus. I actually had it shipped over from South Carolina because I wanted a truck that had a factory winch on it, and the winches are really cool. That's bolted to the side of the frame on the passenger side, and it's like the hose reel that you wind your hose up on. And so you can pull the winch to the front bumper, or you can pull the winch to the rear bumper, which is just kind of a cool thing. But besides having it shipped over here, so the configuration is it's a cab over, so it looks like a delivery truck on steroids, and it's got 46.8-inch tires on it.
So rad.
12.5-foot flatbed. I have the stake sides that turn into cargo. I'm sorry, not cargo.
Netting?
Troop seats.
Oh, okay.
I usually leave that off because I'm hauling lumber or just goofing off with it, and they just rattle and stuff back there. They don't really have a good purpose for me.
Right. Sweet.
I've mounted
I love those things, man.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I mounted my rooftop tent to it about 2 years ago and went camping on the backside of Mount Rainier in January or February. We were in some really deep snow. That was a great trip. I went with another guy who had one, and he bolted a 8-foot tent trailer on the bed of his, and we went snow camping with our rooftop tent and tent trailer on our flatbeds.
That's freaking awesome.
It's got to make the rooftop tent look so small.
Sorry, David, totally cut you off.
I said it's got to make that rooftop tent look so tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was just like a package on the back of it.
It's a rooftop pup tent.
Yeah.
And actually, on your Facebook page, Offroad Podcast, that's it right on the main page, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful picture too, by the way. It's freaking awesome.
That's at Tahuya Off-Road Park, which is on the Olympic Peninsula up in Washington. All the off-road parks that I've taken it to, I usually smash the mirrors up or something. They're just too tight with all the trees we have up here in the Pacific Northwest.
I bet.
I'm sure.
So obviously we're Nissan guys, but this is going to fascinate Danny a little bit. So what drew you to buy this thing? I mean, you're a Frontier guy, so...
Yeah,
why not?
That's that's like when people ask, well, what do you do with it? And I said, anything I want.
Yeah, man.
So I just wanted something outrageous. You know, I do the off-road podcast. My Nissan's great. It served me good, and it continues to serve me well. But I just wanted a fun toy. But I also wanted to get something that was seat 4 people because I've got a wife and 2 kids. I wanted all of us to be able to go on adventures, and I almost ended up buying this off-road fire truck built in Italy, used in Germany, imported to Arizona. It's called an Iveco, and it was a 4-door. Basically the same configuration. It looked like a Unimog. It had portal axles, and it had a winch and everything. But I backed out at the last minute from buying that. And I ended up with this Army truck because I found out that you could take the center seat out, the gunner seat, and you could put 2 Ford F-150 center seats from the front bench in there, and I can get 2 kids where 1 center seat was. So essentially I can fit the whole family.
Nice. That's awesome. That's super rad. I mean, yes. And Dave knows me very well. And I have the same, I think we both have the same kind of mindset as far as like, I mean, if I had the option to purchase one of those, I would do it without even blinking an eye. Something outrageous, something that you just like, there's no reason technically to have this, but it's so awesome. And you could do a lot of activities with it, right? Like, best promo vehicle ever, too.
Yeah, and I got in on it before they got too crazy and wild. I mean, I still paid a bunch for mine because I had it shipped to a guy and had him go over it really well to make sure that I wasn't going to really have to fix it. I'll have to maintain it, but not fix it. So,
yeah.
Because right when I was buying mine, Dirt Every Day released their episode where they borrowed one from Planet or something, and they went wheeling with it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And it wheels decent, but as soon as you lose traction, you're done. There's no lockers. somebody makes a lunchbox style locker that you can put in the front and the rear. And that'll definitely help. But so when I moved to Oregon, like we were talking about earlier on, or maybe that was before, maybe that was when we were in the green room talking.
No, that was in Danny's RV.
It's kind of like the green room. It's something like that. There's a couch in here.
There's a couch
videos
for auditions. So I moved from Washington to Oregon, and we bought a farm down here, and I've got 43 acres, and most of the acreage is wheat field or hay field or whatever, straw. I guess it's not straw. It's wheat. And I got stuck down there really bad this past spring. Like it was just so wet. I lost traction. I couldn't get traction. Surprisingly, my Max Tracks didn't break when I shoved them underneath the Army truck tires there. Clearly, they must be rated for 20,000 pounds.
That's hilarious that you were Max tracking on that thing. It's freaking awesome.
So I ended up winching it out with my Nissan, believe it or not. So
see how you can tell he's a professional. It just comes right back around to Nissan. I love it.
Yep. So the Nissan's got a worn Xeon 10S winch on it, and I hooked it up, and I had someone in it and had it in gear, just slowly spinning the tires, and I just slowly winched it out of the field, and I was almost done winching, and like, why didn't I put a snatch block on it and double my pulling power? That was just like a good dumb maneuver on my end, but it pulled it out, so that means it was stuck less than 10,000 pounds worth of stuck.
Yeah.
That time it didn't break the winch line.
Right. Nice.
Later in the spring, I got it really stuck in our field across the road, and it did break the winch line that time, and that was with the snatch block.
That's like really stuck. Well, I mean, it's a big vehicle, so like if it gets like, really stuck compared to like another vehicle, that's a whole lot of poundage to start moving somewhere.
Well,
it weighs 18,000 pounds.
Yeah, so it's a light vehicle. There's no problems with that.
Awesome.
Well, when we come back from our break here, I want to talk to you about your podcast that you guys do, because I'm very interested. Me and Danny's been on the show once or twice, but when we get right back, let's talk about the podcast here on the Nissan Nation podcast. Niztec Lifts. At Niztec Lifts, we really know the Nissan truck lift kits. We are the experts for your Nissan lift kit parts, shocks, and accessories, and more. Got questions or want to talk with the staff of experts? Give us a call and we will help make your Nissan truck or Xterra look awesome. Check us out at www.nizteclifts.com and tell them the Nissan Nation podcast sent you. Just like that ad says, give Chris and them a call over there in Denver, Colorado. And if you need any kind of aftermarket for your Nissan, if they can't help you, they will definitely point you in the right direction. So, Niztec Lifts. And so, Arron, you are a part of the Offroad podcast, and you do it with a couple buddies. And I think we've last time you were on the show, I think we kind of hinted around this a little bit. But tell us what brought you to it, because you guys kind of inherited the show, correct?
Yeah, so there's a couple brothers that did the podcast before we did, and they left the podcast for a different venture, and the network that was doing it, they were scraping the bottom of the barrel when they found us. No, they put out some feelers and asked any of the listeners if anybody wanted to come on and host and give it a shot, and Ben jumped at that, and another couple guys, and not everybody is stuck around, but Ben and I have been solid for a long time with that. We've got another guy who joined up with us this past year, Jeremy. We're all in the Pacific Northwest, which is great that we're local enough that we can get together and we can wheel together and we can do our events.
What is that like? Because Danny and me are like 3,000 miles apart. So could you tell us what it's like?
Well,
right?
It got harder when I moved to Oregon, because it used to be that we were less than an hour away from each other. Now we're 2.5 hours, which is still close enough. We just did an off-road charity car show, our second annual one, a couple weeks back. And so I had to drive up to where they were for it to happen. But it was totally worthwhile. They've come down to Oregon this past May. Actually, Ben didn't make it, but Jeremy did. And we went to a place called Christmas Valley. And that's where I had my airbags go off on my Frontier.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're almost, is that Eskimo Brothers? I don't think that's Eskimo Brothers.
Is that teabagging?
Sure
we both got, something like that.
I'm afraid to Google Eskimo Brothers. I'm not sure what's going to come up.
Just go with it.
Hashtag Eskimo Brothers.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got together for some of our trips and stuff like that. We're going to try the last weekend of January, get a snow camping trip in on the backside of Mount Rainier, do some of that stuff.
Well, what kind of sets your show apart from some of the others? I mean, anymore, it's like everybody and their brother has a podcast in their RV. So, what do you?
All right, Dave.
What? I mean, because it's obviously it's an older show, so you guys have been around for quite a while, or the show has, and because I see so many of these guys that think this is so easy. They think, oh, I'm just going to go do a podcast. Yeah. And people, it's the overland guys now that think, oh, and then I'm going to get all this free stuff because they're going to want to be on my show. But so what makes you guys tick?
Yeah, it's not that easy. I mean, it's easy to talk and put your voice out there for people to listen, but to want to do it every week over and over, when maybe you haven't heard from the fans in a while and you're like, is anybody even listening? Stuff like that. It wears on you, it grinds on you a little, but we do hear from our fans. In fact, some father and son drove up to our charity event, like I mentioned, that happened about 3 weeks ago. And they said they listened to the podcast and they drove about 2.5 hours to get to us, and it was really cool to hear that they listened to it, and they are starting a off-road gambler rig as well, which we fully support those guys and what they're doing. We think it's great. Yeah.
And you ran a Volkswagen in the Gambler one time, right?
Yeah, we did the Washington Gambler 1 month, and the next month we followed up and did the OG Gambler in Oregon, and we ran it with the new Beetle. Hashtag the stink bug. It turned out to be the stink bug for more than one reason. Initially, it was because we cleaned the mold out of it with some white vinegar, and it smelled like
like vinegar.
No, it smelled like the salt and vinegar chips or whatever those are.
Oh yeah, those are delicious.
So I was like I was like had the munchies every time.
Yeah, every time you get in, you're like, I can go for some salt and vinegar chips. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and then eventually the engine was really clapped out and it smoked a lot, and people thought it was a diesel Beetle, and we're like, no, she just burns a little oil. So
sure, yeah, it's a diesel, yeah.
But to get back to your way back question, what sets the Off-Road podcast apart? We kind of pride ourselves on the interviews that we do. We try to talk to all kinds of people in the industry and cater to all the forms of off-roading that we have knowledge about. I mean, we don't talk about rock bouncers because we just don't know anything about rock bouncers. We think it's pretty sweet when people drop the clutch and red line it up a muddy hill and tip over and crash. But we interview people about suspension components and tires and overland equipment and rooftop tents and winches. And we like all the gear, and we like the interview process because we feel like what we ask questions might be what our listeners want to hear and ask of a vendor themselves. And it just gives them, it might just give them the information that they didn't know they needed to hear until they heard it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that we take away a lot too is being able to, like, all the different people that you meet in the industry and all over on all the things that we do. We've it's kind of cool that and this kind of goes across a lot of different podcast platforms, is that you get to, it's long form radio, right? You get to kind of dig in deeper than a quick YouTube shout out or Instagram story that's 30 seconds long or something like that. So I appreciate your podcast for that. And I think too, you guys are super relatable. You're down home, down to earth, down home guys. And so that's why I listen to it, is just because it seems like just a couple regular guys that I would probably have beers with if I was to head up to Oregon, and I'd probably end up talking off-road stuff about it. I'd probably end up talking about your big old monster friggin' what is it? An LMTV?
Yeah. Light medium tactical vehicle.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the kind words about the podcast. Appreciate that. And that's what we try to be. We try to be real people. We don't try to fake that we know everything about axles or all the gear ratios and 3 links and 4 links and 5 links and 6 links and 12 links and all that stuff. I made that last one up.
Wait, what?
I'm sure somebody's done it. I've seen a lot of stupid stuff on the internet.
I was going to say, there's a Pathfinder I've
12
seen.
links.
There's a Pathfinder, Danny, we've seen recently that probably is a 12 link.
Yeah. I do know about the hot links, though.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, we try to be down to earth and relatable people, and I guess the other thing about our podcast is we don't have a brand behind us, and we aren't the Jeep podcast, we aren't the Toyota podcast, we aren't the Nissan podcast.
Well, thank God.
There's already a good one I've heard out there.
Wait, what's their names? Can you turn us on to them?
You talk to them.
Can we interview those guys?
You're an all-inclusive. It's a millennial podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of follow after the footsteps of Dan Cole with what we do. We just, I should call him the godfather here of the Offroad podcast, I feel like he's got a lot of these things started, whether they're under his wing or not.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Man, Dan Cole, that guy's been. I've been trying to hook up with. He moved down here, down to kind of Southern California. He's way out, stuffed in the dirty hole of the desert that we call Southern California. He's in like the worst part of Southern California. But I swear that I've missed him by like an hour, probably like 6 times since he moved down here. But I'm gonna hook up with him real soon. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah, and Dan's been like, he was very inspirational for us getting this one going. Like Dan pushed me for a long time. He was like, dude, you got to get your podcast going. And I'm like, I don't know. Until one day, like, he was like, dude, you're just going to do it. Here's what, go buy this, go do this. And I was like, okay.
I don't remember how I heard about your podcast, and it may have been on his podcast, but I do remember that I subscribed to your podcast on whatever Podcast Addict, I think is what I use. Mm-hmm. I subscribed to you guys before you even dropped your first episode.
Nice. Yeah, we were on Dan's podcast right around the time that we started. I think we started like 1 or 2 episodes, and then we either went on his or something like that. I don't remember how the timeline laid out, but it was very close to the beginning of our podcast for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys?
Maybe that was it, and so maybe it was like 2 episodes in. There's only 2 episodes, and I was subscribed since then or something.
Nice,
for sure.
Well, so how long have you guys been doing your show?
I have been doing it for just a few months less than you guys have been doing yours, because I know that I wasn't podcasting when you guys started, but I started shortly after, and Ben. Who's part of the trio here. He I'm going to say he's been doing it for about 8 months longer than I have. So our current group isn't much older than you guys.
Okay. Well, so I mean, we've been around since 15, so I mean that's still quite a long time to be doing the shows, man. So as you've done your shows, obviously I know we find that there's good shows and there's bad shows, and we're our own worst critics. But if you had to choose, what are a couple of your good shows that you're like, man, after we did that one, I'm proud of that one?
Man, that you got me on the spot here.
Well, and I'm not saying look for
There's
numbers.
Two of them. I can't remember what the second one is. I just remember we had one that went gangbusters. I can't remember what it is, but the other one that I'm thinking of was when we had Ian, who's currently from Big Tire Garage. Used to be
nice, yeah,
4x4. We had him on, and what a cool cat! I mean, so down to earth and relatable, and took his time with us. He was very gentle with us,
and he was Canadian, right? So I mean, yeah, of course.
I had no idea.
He's Canadian.
Yeah,
and he was he was a school teacher before.
No way,
dude!
I could see him being a school teacher. I mean, he's you can see that teaching aspect to him. I can totally see that for sure. But Canadian,
man, when they used to do the one show here in Middle Tennessee, and I would see him riding around. I think he had a big GMC dually, and like you would see this truck, and you're like, I exactly know who this guy is. I know right who that guy is because it was so flashy and look at me, man. So I don't know if they still do that show here or not. The new show.
I haven't watched it in years.
Yeah, the only bummer about the shows they did was, like in podcasting, I never want to like break down axles and stuff because that's the most boring thing to me. Of like, here's how you do this, and then like their show to me never got deep enough into anything. It was like, that 5-minute segment of, well, now we just sass this Pathfinder or whatever we did. You're like, really? Okay.
Yeah, it almost made you feel like a tool because you couldn't do like 90% of the stuff. They're like, we're just going to take out our professional welders and we're just going to swap in all these parts that we have sitting over here. You're like, oh, is that a portal axle? Yeah. You're like, wait a second.
Well, what's funny about the builds they would do, so they would build, I forget, they built a GMC, whatever the little 2-door SUV they built in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the big full-size one. And they built that, and a buddy of mine that owns Wooley's Offroad here in Nashville, he bought it. And what he didn't know was when he bought it, they'd stripped everything off for the next build. So all they would do was they literally
that sucks
because their budget was so they don't have a huge budget, so they'd have to use those parts again. Yeah.
They made a really cool Datsun. I want to say it was a diesel. I think they had a little Datsun diesel truck that they threw some straight axles on, but they kept the diesel in it.
Yeah,
it was a super cool build. If you got to go, I'm sure it's probably on YouTube or something. You got to go search it out. I remember watching that one pretty close, and I was like, wow, this is the thing for me is they kept like I don't know if they swapped one in or they found some rare little diesel motor that in one of those things. Mm-hmm. I need to go back and watch it too. But I remember it was a really, really cool little build that they did. And it was kind of like, they tried to be like, we'll quote, budget friendly on that one.
Right.
But, they're still solid axle and with like really nice axles. And of course they get all their tires and wheels donated. And all of a sudden they're on Dana 60s with 37s or 40s or something like that. Brand new Mickey Thompsons or something like that on there.
Are you saying they're budget friendly like the Destination Frontiers budget friendly, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh man!
I wonder though if it was the same set of axles under every build. Since you mentioned that they stripped them out.
You know what? They probably stripped a few sets of axles and set them aside.
And, it was. I mean, even in the shop, like you could go by their shop. It was just downtown Franklin, Tennessee, and like you would see it, and it was like, wow, that's what they're filming, working out of, man. Really? That's so tiny.
Well, anyways, Dave, I think we should move this show on to the next level of Nissan love.
Oh, and what would that be, Danny?
Dave, there's a new GTR out. It's not new, but it's not out.
Wow, what a segue, Dan. Are you talking about the R50?
The GT-R50 Italia. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Well,
tell me about it.
Let me tell you about it, Danny. It's a way overpriced $1 million GTR that Nissan partnered with that Italia company. I guess they did it in 40, 50 years ago, something like that, with one of the old Zs, and they were like, "Oh, let's do this for our heritage coming up. Let's do that again." And
It's a limited edition, Dave. They're going to make like 50 of these
because it's like $1 million.
And it's a full body styling. Every single one will be personalized to each purchaser's specific tastes, Dave. These are going to be the cars that are worth like $5 billion in like 50 years from now, Dave.
So basically, they're all in Saudi Arabia and they're never going to leave, right?
I gotta ask,
racist.
I gotta ask, do they sell 50 GTRs a year?
Actually, they do.
That's a good question.
They actually, you would be surprised. In its heyday, they were selling about 200 a month.
Yeah,
and right now they're selling 30 or so a month.
But that's not worldwide. That's not worldwide, though.
No, that's just in the United States.
Yeah.
Well, if they're doing 30 a month, then they might sell all 50 of them.
Yeah, but
supposedly they have a lot of buyers already putting deposits on them. They're going to be taking delivery late next year. Apparently, it takes a year to make them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a car neither one of us can afford.
Sorry, Dave. One of the things that they got to do is they make sure like whoever's buying it has to be legal for that country.
Yeah.
I was kind of reading into the way that they were saying it, but that's basically what they had to do is, like whoever's buying it, like if it's going to Germany, they're going to have to basically build it to a German spec. So who knows?
I saw the pictures on your Facebook page this afternoon. And there was one shot and it was like from the tail light back corner looking forward. And for some reason, I just got this image of the Charger from Dukes of Hazzard. Just the body angle and everything. It was real straight and the angle of the rear buttress and stuff like that, the C pillar.
So what you're saying is they're going to run shine out of this, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, you got to pay for it somehow.
Because I shared Son's picture or their menagerie of pictures of it on our Facebook page. The one that stood out to me, there was a silver one with like a bunch of black accents, kind of like some black lines, kind of outlining certain areas in the car. And that one, I saw that one and I was like, wow, that looks really good. The rest of them, and the blacked out one was, the murdered out look is always pretty tough looking. But
right.
I like how the GTR is so muscular looking for a supercar. I mean, you see Hellcats and all these Ford muscle cars, but they're American muscle cars. The GTR is a quasi budget supercar, I guess you could say, but it looks so much different than all the other supercars out there. And that's why I think I like it so much.
Well, ultimately, like I've been looking at, because I would like to find an 09 or so, because they're actually holding their value fairly well. You can an 09 with 30 to 40, 50,000 miles, something like that, is still going to run you $60,000. Like they are, for what they are, they're actually holding their value pretty well. But so I've been I'm like, man, if they could get the 30, 35 grand range, I would probably have one.
Yeah.
But so, I'm still riding that cheap train there. But, so I've been looking at these things, and the one thing that kills me, they've done subtle updates to the actual R35, but the one thing they haven't done is the digital speed or the digital miles gauge. It looks like it's straight out of the Titan from 04. Like it's the one detail, like it's just like that in the Armada Patrol. It's the same thing. It's the little it's
like the little square. It looks like it should be in Pixels, the movie.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. So
I know what you're talking about.
So I hope this R50 doesn't have that in it.
Well, it's you know what, for as much as money as you're spending, you can probably request that you don't get that in the dash.
And speaking of,
I think I was reading too that they're getting 720 horsepower. Is that right?
That's probably about right.
3.8 liter twin turbo V6, the same motor that motor that Nissan loves so much.
Right.
But it's going to be respectfully powerful for sure.
And speaking of respectively powerful, Danny. Speaking of respectively powerful, buddy, guess what we got to be in a few weeks ago?
Oh, our respectful power was in the new respectfully powerful Titan, wasn't it? There, Dave?
It was, buddy. And while we've got Arron here, we might as well talk about it a little bit. So Me and Danny, obviously, if you haven't yet, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe because we're doing all kinds of fun new content there, and you would have already heard about this. But if you haven't, we're going to discuss it. We were on the second Titan adventure a few weeks ago, Danny.
Yeah, and we had a freaking blast. We were able to test drive the new 2020 Titan, which is a marvelous machine. And we spent the weekend towing with it and going over it and off-roading. We did all kinds of stuff on top of all the extracurriculars that we were doing.
Right.
And there was a lot of whiskey.
There was a lot of whiskey. It's amazing when Nissan wants you to talk about, like, we've experienced a few of these now, and it's amazing when they want you to talk nice about their vehicle. What do? There's always a bottle of whiskey around or some kind of alcohol.
Nissan knows how to get the whiskey going, man. I'll tell you what.
Well, we know how to shut their bar tab down too, Dave.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dave.
Yeah, their first night, Aaron, they were like, we didn't know it, but they said there was a dollar amount they set, and we went well past that dollar amount, and the bartender kept serving us.
We ended up, I think that we doubled, like we had to have them call to make sure that it was okay to double the dollar amount at the bar because we were. No. I mean, there was a lot of us, but I think part of it was like there was on the property because it was a giant ranch, right? There's this big ranch. What was it called? Blue Sky. The ranch at Blue Sky. Mm-hmm. And it's a 3,500 acre ranch. And on the ranch is High West. I think it was High West Whiskey Distillery. So at I don't know if you'd call it a hotel or a resort or whatever it was, the place that we were staying.
It was $1 million resort is what it was.
Yeah. They had a bar full of High West whiskey of all things. And so we were tasting it and it was really delicious. And so we were drinking that all night, you know, whether we were making old fashions or just going straight. And I mean, come to find out, it's not the cheapest thing you could drink all night.
It was like $20 a drink or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think she was said $24 for basically every pour of whiskey. And I had a couple $100, that's for sure.
Yeah, I did too.
a few hundos,
but
I had a few hundos poking out of my pocket at the end of the night. I tucked it in real nice.
It was, but it was really nice. So we got our buddy Jim Bob of Overland Nashville he got to join us. Our buddies with Rogue Overland got to join us.
Yeah, and Alex were there, yeah,
and
then a ton of Titan guys from MVP Titans, yeah.
Yeah, we had a bunch of people, and they just brought super fans from all over the place. And what was funny, Danny, it was. I think initially me and you got more interaction with these super fans than Nissan did.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when you're rolling and wearing the action suit, Dave, people tend to get a little starstruck.
They do that. They do that. Yeah, so Danny rolls in the action suit. And
I flew there in the action suit. It was a little odd going out in the morning, boarding a plane wearing my literally my Levi's action suit.
That's right, from the 70s. But yeah, so what was nice about this time, we all kind of came in at the same time. So,
So I was hanging out in the airport, people giving me looks, and then Dave rolled up and high fives. Jim Bob was there.
That's right, man, and we got to see everybody. And of course, this resort was in Park City, Utah, which is where the 2002 Olympics was, and you could see that all over the place. Like they still have the long jump and all that is everywhere out there, and it's a good you know, for one, it's a resort town, so it's a high dollar resort town, but it's just a beautiful place. Aaron, have you ever got to experience Utah much?
I've not been to Utah.
What?
Yeah, I don't think I've been there.
Let me tell you something. It is probably one of my favorite states that I've ever been to so far. Just with the volume of epic places that they have. I've been there quite a few times now and vacation there and tried out many of their things and still looking at different stuff. You just need to list out all the places in Utah that you need to go and just put them on the bucket list, man.
Yeah, Utah I've threatened to when I retire one day that Utah may be and it's not because you can have multiple wives. It's just the fact that it's like, for one, it's the mecca of off-roading. You've got Moab right there, but it's just one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
You have Zion, you have Bryce, you have, not Coral Reef. Jeez, I'm blanking on it. I went there last year and I went through like so many different national parks that are there, arches and all that stuff. And there's so many to see. It's like you can't even see everything at once,
Yeah. But when I got there, the thing I was really interested in seeing was that new 2020 Titan, Danny. And, of course, we'd already seen pictures of it refreshed. And, it in person it was really where I was going to make my judgment of it, because I'd seen the vehicle and I was like, yeah, they've updated it definitely. But once you see it in the colors, like that new tan color just does not. Pictures don't do it justice, and it looks great in pictures.
Nope. Yeah.
The new fire engine red.
It's $1 million worth of truck in person. It's so perfect.
The interior that they've
I haven't seen the tan color. Is it the same? Not to bust anybody's chops here, but is it the same tan that Toyota's using on their rigs?
No.
So think of Toyota's tan, and think, how could we do this a little bit better and trim it better? Yeah. That's what Nissan did. I feel like that's literally what they did. Like,
it's a darker.
I liked the Nissan tan, but it seemed like they kind of overdid it a little bit. And then when I saw the
Toyota tan,
I'm sorry, the Toyota tan. When I saw the Toyota tan, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've always been a fan of tan. Maybe it's my military heritage or whatever. But then Nissan just dropped their most recent truck it's a slightly darker tan, and then they trimmed it a bunch with a bunch of black, and then they threw a couple little red accents in it, and for some reason to me it pops and it works so perfectly, and I kind of feel like they just took Toyota's idea and made it better,
right? And of course they've needed to too. Like the Titan has not had any exciting colors. This second generation, they went ultra conservative with the colors, and this is what Ford and Dodge Ram sell, so this is the colors we're going to offer. And they're finally making a splash, which they really needed to do. But the interior of this thing, which is what sold me on my 17, is they've plussed it a bunch. And what was really bad was, so they had a group of reporters come in before us, and Car and Driver and some of these people there, and just like, the thing right now is to crap on Nissan. Like, that's because of all the problems Nissan's had with the Gone issues and all that. It seems to be the trendy thing for all these magazines to kind of want to crap on it. And was it Car and Driver that we read the next day? Like, they just was like, yeah, it's a truck.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't. There was one that was pretty terrible as far as like review. It wasn't even a real well written review.
Nope.
It was just kind of. Somebody mailed it in. Somebody went on a trip, got everything paid for them, and then they mailed it in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, here, stick this in your editorial.
Exactly. So, Aaron,
I got to go back home.
Aaron, obviously you're in the smaller version, but what are your thoughts on just the Titan in general, and any questions you want to ask?
Well, I was going to ask because everybody wants to know, did they reveal anything about the Frontier?
Wouldn't you like to know?
So we were with their I can't think of the gentleman's name that was actually head of this. He's actually head of all body on frame vehicles, and trust me, I pride. Of course, we know things, but you want to get another resource of information, and they would not give up anything.
All right. I know you guys are being tight-lipped also. So
we're trying to tight-lip so that we can stay in good graces for sure.
We got a phone. We got a phone.
All
call.
We can really say is that what we have heard is very exciting.
Yes,
and hopefully what we've heard ends up being, because I think a lot of the stuff that we hear and that we see is so. I mean, they're so deep into the kind of like the testing, and this is what it might be, and or this is what we might use. There's still a lot of questions. So even for the stuff that we've seen and heard about, I think some of that stuff might change, and or some stuff might be tweaked. So we're excited from what we've seen and heard. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And basically,
with that out of the way. Talking Titan, we all know that the Cummins is gone. What are they doing for towing? You guys said you pulled trailers around. Mm-hmm. What's the motor? What are they doing there?
So they still got the same 5.6 engine, that they've been using. The only thing they've done with it, they're gonna give you a bunch of we've done this, we've changed this in the motor, which they haven't done anything. All they've done is just give it the infinity tune. Basically, so
it's the new direct inject motor. So it's the motor from 16. There's some upgrades,
right? But as far as what they've done, they have increased the horsepower by 10 horsepower and the torque, I think another 10. But you've got to run high octane fuel for that, which is exactly what you had to do in the Infinity version of this motor. So they've given it that tune, and it's a good tune, and it's a strong motor, no doubt.
I've read up on some things recently, Dave, and so the Infinity motor is actually quite different.
Ooh, explain.
It has variable intake and exhaust timing, whereas the Nissan VK56DE has only single cam variable. It's only variable timing on a single cam. I believe it's intake cam. So that's different. And also and this, like I said, I learned this from a guy, Pedravic. Oh God, I can't even say his name. Anyways, he had a really good little write up on it, and the Infinity has a fully different intake manifold where it has 2 throttle bodies, whereas the VK that's in all the Nissans, the Patrols, has a single throttle body intake, different size throttle body. The heads are different. So there are some differences as far as what Infinity's putting in and what. And I know this bores you, Dave, but this is super geek stuff, and I love it. But it is different. And coming from that, I will say that the biggest takeaway, I think, from almost all of us that were driving it, was the transmission.
Yes.
And so when you paired that extra horsepower and torque, so it was 410 and 415,
no,
413,
400 and 413.
Yeah. So when you paired that extra little horsepower, and the VK makes a really good torque curve as well. When you paired that to that new 9-speed transmission that they have, the biggest thing was I didn't at all notice any weird shifting, but especially when we were towing, like that transmission was a freaking smooth as butter when I was towing. And I was towing the biggest trailer that they had, which was about 6,000 pounds, somewhere around there.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was going into this going, are you going to hear this thing searching for gears all the time? Is it just going to be, and of course we're in altitude too. So you're at 7,000 feet around there. So, the motor is working just slightly harder, but, as far as owning one and driving those there, I couldn't have ever really told you much of a difference as far as the motor. But yeah, the 9-speed transmission is where this truck is really going to win.
Yeah, they changed rear end. They kind of rethunked. It's a premium word that I use there for you guys. You're welcome. They rethunked the entire. I think the drivetrain, the gear ratio. I got all geeked out with the main engineer and was asking him what gears were in the transmission and how that worked and stuff like that. And I ended up getting them, but
yeah, because they had to actually change the rear diff. The
rear differential is geared 363. I think is the rear differential gear, and then the top 3 gears in the transmission are basically, I would equate them to overdrive gears. So they're not. So once you get up to, it would be 90. So 6 gear is 1-to-1. So one rotation is one rotation, whereas earlier in the gears it'd be like 3 rotations is 1 rotation. So 3 rotations of the engine is 1 rotation out the back of the transmission. So you have a lot more power, a lot more power going into the transmission to get the vehicle going.
Right.
Once you get to 1-to-1, then you start getting to slightly less. It's 0.83, 0.63. I don't have the exact numbers here, but that's kind of your overdrive style of gearing.
Right. Well, the one thing that I was disappointed about with this update was the actual towing numbers itself. That the payload went up I think it went up 200 pounds, something like that. But the actual towing only went up like 50 pounds, which you would. I mean, they just redesigned this transmission. I mean, you didn't think that might be something that they thought about. I mean, it's still the XD will tow around 12K, so I mean that's pretty good, but I don't know.
Yeah, the weight of the towing, I think part of that is just because of the non-XD, the size of the vehicle and the.
Well, Nissan's always been conservative with their numbers, anyways.
Yeah, I think it's got to be conservative. The way that thing felt back there, it's got to be conservative. I mean, it could be too with the way that they try to make it, the rear suspension not be just hard as a rock and stuff like that. So they may lower the numbers to give it a little bit more of a comfort. So. I don't know. I got a 6,000-pound trailer, so when I towed with that 6,000-pound trailer when I was out there, I was like, "Well, this is exactly how it's going to feel." So you may see one in my driveway pretty soon. In 2020.
Your mobile podcast studio is what you're saying might be behind one.
Yeah. The podcast studio is going to be mobile here pretty soon, King of the Hammers or something like that.
There you go. You mentioned you guys went off-roading also. So is there a Pro 4X version?
Yeah, that was that tan version. They gave us all, of course, kind of the tan. I think the tan version is kind of their trademark, not trademark, but their top of the line.
Yeah. And they're identifying that as their off-road color, kind of.
Yeah, so that was kind of like there was all tan Pro 4Xs for the off-road course. So everybody hopped in those, and it has all the same stuff as the other Pro 4Xs, rear locking diff and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure all the suspension is pretty similar. I ended up crawling underneath it like a real gate. Or most of the stuff what we've seen before. A couple different changes. I think the front diff is there's a couple different skid plates, but nothing extreme that I saw that was different.
Well, they stamp Pro 4X in the front skid plate now, and they were really selling that one.
Yeah.
That was like a
Pro
big
4X everything.
Yeah, that was
Titan badge and Pro 4X everything.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Oh my god,
I love it.
The Titan logo is like over the top everywhere on this truck now.
Dave doesn't like the Titan logo everywhere. I loved it. I love the little Easter egg Titan logo everywhere. You can suck it, Dave. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. But yeah, the cool thing though, I will say, was the moonroof they put in these now. And I know Danny, you're a SoCal guy who doesn't like sunroofs a lot, but that panoramic moonroof in that vehicle was pretty nice, man. Off-roading, it sort of gives you a little bit of that Jeep feel. It was
weird.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was weird because like I've never been in a truck, like a truck, and like the entire top of the truck you could just kind of see out of. It was odd. It was a weird feeling. I mean, I've been in trucks with a sunroof or whatever, and my truck has a sunroof. I never open it. Sometimes I forget it has a sunroof, but the panoramic.
Your Frontier.
Yeah, my Frontier has a sunroof. I never.
Mine does too, and I hate it. It's worthless.
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably just weight. Yeah, it's just weight, and I mean, I might open up the little slide thing every once in a while. Just take some room from overland patches.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's patch space. That's
killing my patch game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this was kind of a whole new, and I talked some smack about having like a sunroof and whatnot. But when that thing cranked open, I was like, wow, that's kind of cool, man. Like I don't know if I'd spend a ton of money extra to get it, but if it was part of the package, I wouldn't turn it down. Right. It's a cool feature. I know my wife likes about them.
Well, I was happy to get behind just the King Cab, so I have never got to drive the King Cab version of this truck.
Yeah, it's super cool that they're offering that too. They should have a long time ago, I think, but yeah.
But the King Cab was real nice, and I sat in the rear of this thing, and I was surprised it was really, really roomy for. I mean, now I'm not going to want to go 500 miles back there, but if you're a small kid, it probably would be okay.
Yeah, you can still stick some kids back there and not have to worry about it. You'll fit them up until they're about 13, depending on.
Well, by that time
boys
they
and
don't want
things.
to. They don't want to be with you anyways. By that age,
Yeah,
so.
by that time they just want to ride their bike over to their friend's house and not talk to you.
Are they going to bring back the regular cab?
No,
No.
no. So the single cab experiment is over.
Yeah.
The single cab was just like a hard to look at.
It was an abomination.
Well,
Yeah.
I get what they were doing with that truck. You're
Looking
trying to
at
get the contractor guy that that really just needs more space in the rear of the thing. But the problem being is they never offered a V6 in this thing. So price point is everything. And even though I think that the Titan is the best full size value out there, people are used to, if you want your maintenance vehicle, whatever, it just needs to be a V6 anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too. I mean, when it comes out, it's going to be a price point thing too. I mean, I really hope they come in at a very competitive price point. They offer a lot of incentives to try and keep it at the same level as what Dodge and Chevy are doing right now. I mean, Dodge and Chevy are having a real battle right now to see who can.
Wait, you mean
second place.
Ram and Chevy Dang?
Sorry,
Yeah,
not Dodge. Stupid, whatever.
I do the same thing.
Like how they just like to change the script, not really mention it, but then that's the thing for forever now.
So you guys said the interior is pretty nice. One thing I know about Nissan is they're always pushing tech, and they even push it down to the lowliest Versa.
Yeah.
Was it pretty tech heavy inside?
So yeah, now they're going their safety shield 360 is standard on this, which is really nice. So, and we get to play with some of the sensors, and I had test drove the new Versa that has their full package and was really impressed with it. But once you get that, and the assisted cruise control was really, really nice.
Yeah, the great cruise control assist. It'll take you down to a stop, and from what they were telling us, all the 360 was down to the base level, and then almost all the other tech minus some of, I think the fender the fender's only for
the premium. Yeah, that's the Pro
premium
4X
levels. I think you get the fender in the Pro 4X and the Platinum and maybe the SL. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it was. But like the infotainment center is still very large in every single model.
It's an 8-inch standard and a 9-inch in the Pro 4X Platinum.
Yeah. So you still get like a lot of really good tech and all the safety systems throughout the line, no matter what you get. So they're really well appointed for having a lot of that stuff.
Well,
which is kind of cool.
Like in the Pro 4X too, they've always done well in a Pro 4X, whether it's the Frontier or not. They've always done nice leather and stuff. But now with the stitching, with the red stitching or orange, whatever color they want to call it,
Red,
stitching, and like they really. And they blacked out all the burgers and stuff. Even in the steering wheel now, the burger is blacked out in those.
It's done a million times better. I mean, we did an entire podcast about our initial thoughts, but after seeing it too, it's just as good as what we thought when we first saw pictures of them.
Right.
That's for
and
sure.
then now they have a 7-inch screen in the console itself. So
in the instrument cluster right above the right behind the steering wheel, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they have like the little tilt, the tilt reading, the degree rating of tilt, and you can change that to 5 or 6 different options depending on what you want to see when you're driving. So that was pretty cool. It was really nice. Kind of on par with what everybody else is offering as well.
Can you use that 360 view like while you're off-roading to look at obstacles around you?
Yeah, up to a certain speed, yeah. So it's actually really nice. We clicked that on, and I think there was like a short clip in my YouTube video about it, but we clicked it on when we were driving, and I was like, wow, that's probably really nice if you were doing like nice slow rock crawling. You click that on, and all of a sudden you can see right in front of your wheels. You can see the radius around the truck. It was pretty sweet.
Right. And the cool, so they took us out off-roading in this thing, or what they called off-roading. They had one little challenging
Some dirt trails with a little articulated hill.
Yeah. And what was funny was, of course, they're not used to what people's experience levels are in this. And, of course, me and Danny has a lot of years of off-roading. And, he's like, you're going to want to click the walker on here and here. And I was just like, I'm not clicking the locker on.
Vomit and two-wheel, baby.
Yeah, pretty much, man. And like,
Send it.
yeah. And once we got up it, he was like, okay. but what was cool was you get up this little section, and then they have the SEMA build, the one that's got the
supercharger. It's got Radflow suspension, or was it Radflows? I think it's got Radflows front and rear, Dirt King upper and lower control arms. Yeah, it was appointed well.
Yeah, for the Overlander guy, man, this truck was it was a truck boner.
Yeah, lightning rack and all that stuff.
Are you talking about that Frontier?
No, this is the one that they just dropped in SEMA.
They just built it for SEMA. Yeah, it was a new. Well, no, it was a 19.
No, it was the new design. It was the 20.
Was it? Mm-hmm. Oh, they just wrapped it in that brown color.
I couldn't tell you.
It was for sure wrapped.
Okay.
It was for sure wrapped in the brown. But yeah, they had the supercharger and the. Yeah, it was well appointed. Very, very beautiful truck.
I didn't see that in any of the SEMA news coverage that I saw. I saw the Frontier in lots of different places, but didn't see that.
Well, if you were as Nissan geek as we are, you would have seen it everywhere. It's weird too, you know. Like we see, like the fact that you didn't see it is, I wouldn't say it's weird to me, but I remember seeing it all over my news feed, and I'm like, all right, I get it. I've seen this thing, you know. Just because, like, when I go on Facebook and Instagram, I'd say 75% of the people on are Nissan people. It's just, I mean, because part of the reason I use Instagram and Facebook is mostly for keeping up with my Nissan friends that I've made over the years, you know, through podcasts, through business and stuff like that. And so, you know, I've made more racing friends and Toyota friends and stuff like that, but still, it's like, you know, when something happens at Nissan, I find out about it real quick because it's all over my feed. So
either that or people that know us are like sending.
Yeah, usually
like
they're tagging us.
Oh yeah, I bet you guys get tagged all the time.
Yeah, we get a lot of tags. Hey, what do you think of this? You're like, cool, man.
Who are you again?
The thing, and you know what? And this is kind of good because you have an outsider's perspective. Did you see the tan pre-runner Frontier that was out, and did you see it all over the place? Did you see it sometimes? What was your thoughts on that?
That was gray, Danny.
I'm sorry, gray. My colors are messed up.
Boy, I didn't see a tan one at all. Yeah, I saw that one. I probably saw it 5 times across my news feed.
Okay.
And then I did in at least one of those interactions, someone was not like calling it out, but they're like, it's already been done. This guy in the community's already had the VK swap with the fiberglass fenders and the 37-inch tires and this, that, and the other thing. And so they were like downplaying it like it wasn't that cool, but I thought it was pretty sweet, and mostly because it's a 15-year-old truck being featured at SEMA with an engine swap from a Titan and all these aftermarket parts that probably nobody had any idea were available to Nissans except for Nissan people. Yeah.
That, I don't know if you know, that truck, that front suspension was built off of my race truck. So it was running like a real race suspension. And then I don't know if you know, if you read it, they turbocharged that motor. So it was a 700 horsepower.
Yeah. It was turbo also. Yeah, that's right.
It was actually like, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh no, what did they do?" You know, like because you can get that right or you can get it super wrong. Because I saw actually 2 years ago at SEMA, I saw a Titan with long travel suspension. When I saw it in person, I went underneath it and I went, "Oh no!" I think it was Desert Addicts or something weird like that. And it was just a terrible long travel version. Everything was done wrong. And so I saw that one and I was like, wait a second. So I ended up contacting the guy that built my race truck, and he's like, oh yeah, I couldn't really say anything, but yeah, they called me and asked me if I made a kit because they had seen your truck. And so yeah, I said, yeah. And so he built the same kit for their truck. And I was like, wow, that's freaking awesome, you know? And then I ended up talking to him on Instagram and found out more about the truck. And then they ended up doing a video on, I think their YouTube channel. So the company that built it is MA Motorsports out in Virginia or Pennsylvania, something like that.
Maryland.
But Maryland, that's what it was. and they did a walk. They did like a whole walk around, and they went underneath the truck and close up on everything, and it was really, really well built. I mean, it's a luxury pre-runner. It's not caged front to back, so I think at that level you'd want to cage it front to back, just because you'd get to, if you really went out and womped on it like it needs to be womped on, you'd need to cage it. But at the same time, like everything that was done on it seemed really, really nice.
Well, and
they used
knowing
all the good parts and everything.
Knowing Nissan, they're usually like, hey, in 3 weeks we need this.
Yeah. So whatever MA Motorsports did, they did it fast and well.
So a quicker turnaround time than your race truck.
Mm-hmm. We were probably talking about this last time you came on the show. Yeah. Listen, man, I drove it. All right. I drove it around my parking lot.
I'm so excited for you. It's getting there.
It is. I should be getting exhaust on it in a week so that I can actually hear when I start it up and my neighbors don't hate me terribly.
Well, Aaron, what's funny about this thing was he used to give me such crap about me sassing my Xterra. And he was like, I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I'd be out there, blah, blah, blah. And then of course they adopt their little boy and stuff, and all of the time just goes away again, and you're like,
oh, I lost 2 years. And you know what? Shout out to Hunter Groders. He turned 3 today. It's my little boy, man.
Awesome. Happy birthday, Hunter.
Yeah, he's my dude, man. And I'll tell you what, dude, I was out this weekend washing my truck after I went snow wheeling, and he was in the garage snagging screwdrivers out of my drawers and walking over and pretending to work on the race truck the whole time, dude. So it was pretty awesome.
It's pretty
Spelling
awesome.
His name on the side.
Yeah, right.
No, I don't think he's tall enough for that yet. So as we wind this thing down, Aaron, what's coming up on your show? What do you guys got? Anything special coming up?
We are about to drop our holiday gift guide. That's going to be coming out in probably 10 days is my guess. Hopefully less than 10 days. We're a little late getting that one up, but we love to do that one every year. Lets you dream a little bit about stuff you want. We mixed it up a little bit this year. We decided to do a virtual gift exchange. So you pick an item for somebody else. You don't really buy it for them because we're just we haven't won the lottery yet, but for each price category, we pick something for somebody else. So that was kind of fun. And then as far as events go, hopefully late January, hopefully we get enough snow up here that it's going to make it worthwhile. But we're going to go snow wheeling and camping up in what we call the Gifford Pinchot National Forest up in Washington State.
Nice. Well, do you guys mess with YouTube at all?
Yeah, we do. So we got a channel there. We're slowly growing that. We aren't as big as the NNP, but we're getting there. And we try to get a video out maybe every 10 days or so, chronicling some gear review stuff, the trips we've been on, just stuff like that we've done.
Nice. Have you guys ever thought about going to Gone Moab in May?
Well, after your guys' recent review of Gone Moab, I'm not sure if I want to attend that event now.
Well,
it's under new management.
We've got a new review coming.
Okay. All right, good. I was
serious changes.
I was actually planning to go to Gone Moab this year, 2019, and when I was planning it, it was before I decided to quit my job and move out of state and have my wife quit her job, and everything came together. And
it's amazing how
Moab got booted out of there.
It's amazing how a job's important sometimes, huh?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I'm moving and shaking. Well, if the idea comes across your lap, I'm gonna be there, and it might be fun to hang out. So just keep it in the back of your chesticles.
We might do a joint podcast from there. That might be fun.
That would be
a blast.
And so Gone Moab got canceled for me, and then it almost got revived. That Christmas Valley run I was telling you guys about earlier down in Central Oregon. It's like high desert out there. We had a big group of people. I think we had 11 people planning to do this overland trip with us, and all but 3 rigs bailed. We ended up going with like 4 adults and 1 child, and at the last minute, we're like, well, what else can we do? What else is going on right now? And I'm looking at the calendar. I'm like, Gone Moab's going on right now. We could go crash the Gone party. I bet I could just shoot a little PM to the NNP guys, and they'd be like, come on down. So, but we chose. I was like a 23-hour drive. So we're like, we're just going to do the 6-hour drive instead.
I understand
Roger that.
It's a long drive for me. That's why I fly.
Hey, one last thing before you cut out, I would love to see you guys interview a good friend of mine that lives out in Oregon. His name's Todd Walters, and he races Toyota, and I raced with him. And that he just got featured in 4-Wheel Magazine. He built his entire truck up there in Oregon. And it is a super, super badass Toyota race truck. So maybe it's something you might want to look into and share with your listeners. But he's this really cool guy, and I think it'd be great for your show if you ever wanted to do that.
Yeah, I'm looking him up right now. So you said Todd Walters.
AMR Racing, Adrenaline Motorsports Racing.
Okay.
If you want to see his truck and what it does, you can go to my YouTube channel called The Groot X.
Any viewing hours is appreciated for Danny.
It's a blue Toyota race truck, Tacoma.
It's amazing how you snuck a Toyota talk into a Nissan podcast, Danny. You're such a sneaky. You're so sneaky.
You know, their podcast is the Offroad podcast, and there's nothing more off-road than racing through the desert at 100 miles an hour.
That is
Eventually,
true.
It'll be in a Nissan, but I did it in a Toyota, so whatever.
That is
you
definitely
start
true.
somewhere. You got to get past mile marker 23 or
68. I did, dude. I made it to mile marker 500 or whatever it was. Dude, we finished.
I was so excited when I heard you finished.
The monkey's off my back. Dude, I'll tell you what, dude. I got out of the truck at mile 100, and I was thinking to myself, like, all right, mile 100, that's good, dude. That's like double what I did. I'm like, if I could get back in and I finish, I'm like, that's like, then it's not a thing. But I remember in the truck when I was calling out mile markers, and I was right around the 70 mark. I was like, don't jinx this. Don't jinx this. I would
hold together.
Of all the shit that I was supposed to be thinking of, I was thinking, don't jinx us. Don't jinx us.
Well, so Arron, is once again, we appreciate you being on here, man. And where can people find you and your shows?
So we're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube under Offroad Podcast, not the Offroad Podcast, just Offroad Podcast. And then we are the network we're on is called the Firearms Radio Network. We're if you Google that, you can find us there. We got show notes and some affiliate links there as well. So most of the stuff that we do though is through the 3 main social platforms: Instagram and YouTube and Facebook.
Well, cool. Well, we've definitely appreciated you being on tonight. And once again, if you guys go over to the Offroad Podcast, is that correct?
Just Offroad Podcast. There's no the.
Oh, no the. Okay.
Although we are the Offroad Podcast. Officially, we're Offroad Podcast.
That's right. So if you guys would go over there, and if you just like off-road talk, man, go check those guys out. They definitely do a good show, and it's definitely got the seal of approval from Dave and Danny for sure.
Yeah, buddy. So,
Danny, this is show 101. Can you believe that?
Starting the new year off with a full Grundle send. I'm sipping bourbon. I'm in the new podcast studio, aka my trailer, and we're living the dream. The podcast YouTube channel is kicking off hot these days, Dave. And I want all of my faithful following friends to make sure that you're subscribed to that, because that is the future. It's not the only future, but it is one of the futures, and we are going to have so much good content on that channel coming up soon. So if you're not subscribed, you're going to miss out.
That's right. And one other way they can help support us is go to Patreon. If you'll look up the Nissan Nation podcast. And I promise Danny won't
You're
sing.
welcome.
Danny won't sing if you go there. But if you'll do that, and if you like supporting the show, I mean, it costs you a couple dollars a month. It doesn't cost much, and it really does help support the show. And I want to give a shout out to our buddy over in Illinois. I'm slipping on his mind right now. Austin Schmidt. Our buddy Austin Schmidt, he has been he's a huge supporter of what we do, but he was our first Patreon guy. So I wanted to give Austin a big shout out and say I appreciate that.
Shout out to Austin.
Yeah,
and
way to go, Austin.
Austin has been our only Patreon supporter for a bit. So he can't do it alone, guys. He can't help fund the show alone. So if you go over there, we have a couple tiers. Danny he'll sign a picture. I don't know. We'll get some Action Suit Group gear and we'll throw in
I'll
there.
sign your tits.
Wait, you keep away from mine. But yeah, if you go over there, a little support. But the simplest way, like Danny was saying earlier, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Yeah, we're getting some AdSense money that way, and it is going to bring our show to you. So we want to cover more events, and it's a simple way to do it. So Danny,
we got big adventures coming. That's all we got to say. We got big adventures coming. The exciting ones.
Before you say what I think you're going to say, in your last episode at the very end, you had all the different callers calling in with what they remember about the show throughout the years. And
yes.
And I wanted to give my favorite.
Well, we're out of time, Aaron. We're out of time. So
I'm on the edge of my seat right now, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm on the edge of my seat. What I want to know what he thinks.
Go ahead.
It was the Craigslist ad for the goats.
Oh,
that was fabulous.
Oh, it's top shelf. It's top shelf. That will go down in infamy forever. I still talk to Car Jeep about that. There's still jokes that float around. Oh,
good.
Yeah.
And every time it's brought up, Car Jeep, you can just even talking to him on the phone, you just feel the FU.
I can remember my belly hurting from laughing so hard on the trail all day. When anytime he would get service, his phone would explode in my truck. Just be like, bling, bling, bling. And he's like, what the F are these codes? Oh my gosh, dude. I would literally fall out of my truck laughing every chance I got. It was the best.
Well, what's bad was I flew back to Nashville and I get a phone call from him going, was it you? Did you do it? And I was like, what? I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Goats. Free goats.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that one still, I think every once in a while, I think he gets a call about that.
It's got to be on one of the top pranks out there. I mean, besides the swimming, well, going along with the swimming pool and a few others, but that's up in the top echelon. It was a good one.
Classic.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back because that obviously we skipped over that and we should have remembered that.
That is a good memory. But so from all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee to wherever you're listening to us across the globe, maybe we'll be on Mars once Elon Musk gets that ship in Mars. Maybe we'll be out there too. But right now, we're just stuck to the globe, man. So from all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee to wherever you listen to us, what are we, Danny?
Ow!
Peace, everybody. Love y'all.
Love ya.